The great council chamber buzzed with hundreds of voices. Representatives from across the galaxy sat in their floating chairs, arguing about trade routes and mining rights like they did every day. The massive dome above them showed the stars, but most delegates kept their eyes on their data screens instead. Minho walked slowly to the center platform. His simple black uniform looked plain next to the bright robes and shining armor of the other ambassadors. He carried no weapons, no fancy technology, just a small datapad in his hands. "The Human Federation wishes to make a statement," Minho said into his communicator. His voice was quiet and calm. Several delegates looked up from their screens. Most kept typing or talking to their assistants. The Vorthon representative, a tall blue creature with 4 arms, actually laughed. "Another human complaint about our mining operations?" the Vorthon asked loudly. "Or are you going to tell us again that we should share our profits with primitive worlds?" Minho waited for the noise to die down. He looked around the chamber slowly, his dark eyes taking in every face. Some species he had worked with for 20 years. Others he had helped solve problems they could not fix alone. All of them saw humans as the weak newcomers to galactic society. "The Human Federation is leaving the Galactic Council," Minho said simply. "All human worlds, colonies, and ships will withdraw from galactic space immediately. We will no longer participate in council decisions or follow council laws." The chamber fell silent for exactly 3 seconds. Then the talking and laughing started again, even louder than before. "Good riddance," shouted a Nixari delegate, its crystal body flashing bright colors. "Maybe now we can get real work done without your constant moral lectures." "Finally," said another voice. "The humans always slowed down our progress with their silly rules about protecting weak species." Minho stood perfectly still as the insults flew around him. Near the back of the chamber, Yuna watched her ambassador with growing fear. She was young for a diplomat, only 25. But she had studied galactic politics her whole life. She knew what the other delegates did not see. Minho was not angry. He was not sad. He was completely calm, like a man who had already said goodbye to everyone he cared about. Daiho sat in the military section, his fingers moving quietly over his communication device. He was sending coded messages to every human fleet commander in the galaxy. The codes were simple: "Come home now. Bring everyone." "We thank the Council for their years of cooperation," Minho continued, his voice still steady. "We wish all species peace and prosperity in the future." "Peace and prosperity without you telling us how to achieve it," laughed the Vorthon delegate. Several others joined in the laughter. Minho nodded once to Yuna and Daiho. Then he walked toward the exit without another word. His footsteps echoed in the sudden quiet that followed his movement. "Wait," called the council president, an ancient Althari with silver skin. "You cannot simply leave. There are treaties, agreements, trade contracts that must be honored." Minho stopped at the chamber door but did not turn around. All human obligations to the council end in 72 hours. After that time, no human ships or stations will respond to council communications. "This is ridiculous," the Vorthon delegate stood up, all 4 arms waving. "Where will you go? What will you do without access to our trade networks and technology?" For the first time, Minho smiled. It was not a happy smile. "We will manage." He left the chamber. Yuna and Daiho followed him quickly, their hearts pounding with questions they could not ask in front of the other delegates. In the corridor outside, Minho finally spoke again. "Begin emergency protocols immediately. Contact every human settlement, every research station, every mining colony. Everyone comes home." "Sir," Yuna whispered. "What about our people working on alien worlds? Our scientists in joint research projects? Our families who married into other species?" "Everyone," Minho repeated firmly. "No exceptions." Daiho looked at his communication device. Messages were already coming back from fleet commanders across the galaxy. "They understand, sir. Operation Quiet Thunder is beginning now." Yuna had never heard of Operation Quiet Thunder. As far as she knew, no such plan existed in any human military database. But Daiho's calm confidence told her it had been prepared long ago, waiting for this exact moment. Over the next 3 days, the galaxy watched something unprecedented happen. Every human ship, from massive colony vessels to tiny personal shuttles, began moving toward human space. There were no fights, no dramatic speeches, no demands for better treatment. The humans simply packed their belongings and left. Research teams abandoned projects they had worked on for decades. Engineers walked away from half-built space stations. Doctors left hospitals where they had saved thousands of alien lives. Teachers departed classrooms where they had educated alien children for years. The other species celebrated. News reports called it the end of human interference and freedom from primitive moral restrictions. Trade companies rushed to claim territories and resources that humans had controlled. Military leaders made plans to expand into human-protected zones. On the third day, the last human transport ship crossed the boundary of Galactic Council space. Every human world activated defense screens that blocked all outside communication and sensors. From the outside, it looked like every human planet had simply vanished behind walls of static. In the council chamber, delegates congratulated themselves on finally being free of human influence. They did not notice that several automated systems had begun showing small error messages. They did not see that some communications networks were running more slowly than usual. They did not realize that their defense computers were struggling with calculations that had always been easy before. Una stood on the bridge of the transport ship, carrying the last council embassy staff home. She looked back at the galaxy they were leaving behind and felt a chill of fear. "Sir," she said to Minho, "what happens now?" Minho looked at the stars ahead of them, toward the human worlds that waited in the darkness. Now they learn what they never bothered to understand, which is how much they needed us. Behind them, the galaxy continued its celebration, unaware that its caretakers had just walked away. 3 months had passed since the humans left, and the galaxy seemed more peaceful than ever. Trade flowed freely without human interference. Military operations proceeded without moral objections. The council met every day to divide up the resources and territories the humans had abandoned. Taejin sat in his office high above the council's main city, reviewing reports from across the galaxy. As an Althari counselor, his silver skin changed colors with his emotions. Right now, it flickered with confusion as he read the same type of report for the 15th time that week. Power grid failure on Vega Prime. Communications delay in the Centauri system. Navigation errors in the outer rim. Each problem was small, easily fixed, but they kept happening. More and more every day. "Kyung," he called to his assistant through the communicator. "Please come to my office." Kyung was a young maintenance technician who had recently been promoted to work directly for the council leadership. She was smart, hardworking, and had a talent for fixing things that others could not understand. Her people, the Corvani, were known for their technical skills, though not as advanced as some other species. "You wanted to see me, counselor?" Kyung asked as she entered his office. Her green skin was darker than usual, which meant she was worried about something. "These reports," Taejin said, waving his hand at the pile of data pads on his desk. "Infrastructure problems across the galaxy. Do you see any pattern?" Kyung picked up several reports and studied them carefully. Her large black eyes moved quickly across the data, her mind working through the technical details. "They all involve systems that were installed or upgraded in the last 50 years, she said slowly. "But that covers almost everything in our infrastructure." "Exactly. What changed 50 years ago?" Kyung thought about it. That was when the humans joined the council and started participating in galactic construction projects. Taijin's silver skin flashed bright yellow with realization. "Show me the technical specifications for these failing systems." Kyung pulled out her portable computer and began accessing the galactic database. What she found made her skin turn almost black with shock. "Counselor," she whispered, "look at this." On her screen was the blueprint for a standard power distribution system used on thousands of worlds. At first glance, it looked like typical Vorthon engineering, clean, efficient, powerful. But as Kyung highlighted different sections, a disturbing pattern emerged. "The basic design is Vorthon," she explained, "but see these modifications? These efficiency improvements? These safety protocols?" She pointed to different colored sections of the blueprint. "All of these additions are marked as anonymous improvement suggestions in the database. Anonymous suggestions that somehow always got approved and implemented," Taejin noted. "And sir, look at the dates." Kyung scrolled through the modification history. Every single improvement was submitted exactly 1 day after a human engineer visited the design facility. Taejin stood up quickly, his skin now cycling through multiple colors as different emotions fought in his mind. "Show me more systems. Communications, transportation, defense networks, all of them. For the next 6 hours, Kyung worked through database after database while Taijin watched over her shoulder. The pattern was always the same. Basic alien technology, improved by anonymous suggestions that appeared after human visits. The quantum communication network that connected the entire galaxy. The original design was Nexari, but 60% of the actual working system came from mysterious improvements that made it faster and more stable. The hyperspace navigation systems that allowed safe, faster-than-light travel, Althari invention, but with critical safety modifications that prevented ships from being lost in hyperspace. The planetary defense grids that protected worlds from asteroid impacts and space storms, a combination of technologies from 12 different species, all linked together by coordination protocols that no one remembered designing. Counselor, Kyung said, her voice shaking. I think the humans were not just participating in our technology development. I think they were secretly fixing it. Taejin sat down heavily in his chair. Show me the current error reports again. Kyung brought up the latest batch of problem reports from across the galaxy. Now that they knew what to look for, the pattern was obvious. Every failing system was trying to run on its original alien design without the human improvements that had been quietly added over the decades. It's like, Kyung said slowly, like someone removed all the patches and fixes from our computer programs, but left the programs expecting those patches to be there. But the humans didn't remove anything. They just stopped maintaining it. Sir, if this pattern holds true for all galactic infrastructure... Taejin's skin turned completely white with fear. Then our entire civilization is built on technology we don't actually understand. The next week brought more disturbing discoveries. Wu, a Vorthan historian working in the council archives, made an appointment to see Taejin urgently. Counselor, I've been researching galactic crisis management for the past century, Wu said as he entered the office. His forearms carried dozens of historical documents. I wanted to understand how we've handled major threats so successfully. And what did you find? Every single solution to every major crisis originated from human proposals. Wu spread the documents across Taejin's desk. The solar storm of 2387 that threatened to destroy the Centauri colonies? Humans suggested the magnetic deflector network. The plague of 2401 that was killing billions across 12 species? Human doctors developed the universal cure. The asteroid swarm of 2419 that was headed for the galactic core? Human engineers designed the gravity redirect system. Taejin looked through the documents. Each one showed the same pattern. A crisis would develop. The council would panic and argue, and then a human representative would quietly suggest a solution. The council would debate the suggestion, often for months, before finally implementing it and taking credit for saving the galaxy. Wu, in your research, did you find any major crisis that was solved without human input? The historian's blue skin darkened with embarrassment. No, sir. Not one. That evening, Taejin stood at his office window looking out at the city below. The lights were flickering more than usual. The transport systems were running behind schedule. Small problems everywhere, getting bigger each day. His communication system chimed with an incoming message from the Outer Rim territories. 3 more star systems were reporting power grid failures. The problems were spreading. Taejin tried to contact Earth but got only silence. The humans had not been lying when they said they would not respond to council communications. It was as if humanity had simply vanished from the galaxy. For the first time in his long life, Counselor Taejin began to understand that the Galactic Council was not actually governing the galaxy. They had been taking credit for the work of a species they had considered primitive and annoying. And now that species was gone, 6 months after the humans departed, the galaxy was no longer celebrating. The small problems had become big problems, and the big problems were becoming disasters. Leah stood in the council's emergency communication center, surrounded by screens showing red warning lights across the galaxy. As the new head of emergency communications, she had been promoted quickly when her predecessor suffered a nervous breakdown from the constant crisis reports. Leah, we're losing contact with the Vega system, called Jae-hyun from across the room. He was one of the few technicians who understood how the quantum beacon network actually worked, though even he admitted there were parts of it that made no sense to him. How many systems does that make this week? Leah asked, though she already knew the answer would be bad. 17, Jae-hyun replied grimly. The cascade failures are spreading faster now. Each beacon that goes offline makes the remaining ones work harder, which makes them more likely to fail. Leah stared at the galactic communication map on her main screen. 6 months ago, it had been a beautiful web of blue lines connecting every inhabited world in the galaxy. Now it looked like a net with holes torn in it, getting bigger every day. "What about our attempts to contact Earth?" she asked. "The same as always. Complete silence. Our signals reach human space, but it's like they hit a wall. No response, no acknowledgement, nothing." Leah rubbed her tired eyes. She had not slept well in weeks. Nobody had. The council was in emergency session every day now, but all they did was argue about who was responsible for the growing crisis. "Prepare a ship," she said finally. "I'm going to visit the old human colony worlds. Maybe we can find some clue about what they did to maintain these systems." The next day, Leah found herself aboard a council exploration vessel heading toward the former human colony of New Sol. The journey that should have taken 2 days stretched to 4 because of navigation system errors that kept putting them slightly off. Course Otter Junho commanded the exploration ship. He was an experienced captain who had served in the council fleet for 30 years. But even he seemed nervous as they approached human space. "There," he said, pointing at the main screen. "New Sol population 4 million. Or it was 6 months ago. The planet looked normal from space. City lights were visible on the night side. Orbital stations were still in position. Everything appeared peaceful and functioning. Are you getting any communication signals?" Leah asked the communications officer. "Nothing directed at us, but there are normal city broadcasts, traffic control signals, even entertainment programs. It's like they're all still there." "Then where are they?" The landing party took a shuttle down to the main city. What they found was more disturbing than if they had discovered bodies or signs of battle. The city was perfect. Streets were clean. Buildings were maintained. Food was still fresh in restaurants, as if the meals had been prepared that morning. Vehicles sat parked normally along the roads. Personal belongings were still in homes and offices, but there were no people anywhere. Bora, the expedition's xenoarchaeologist, examined everything with scientific curiosity, while the others felt increasingly uncomfortable. "It's not like they were kidnapped or killed," she observed, scanning an apartment where a family had clearly lived. "They packed some belongings but left most things behind. Look, there's still warm food in the kitchen preservation unit. Where did 4 million people go?" Yuno wondered aloud. "And more importantly," Leah added, "how did they leave without anyone noticing ships launching?" They spent 3 days exploring the empty city. The power systems were still running perfectly. The communication networks were operational. The water treatment plants worked flawlessly. Everything functioned as if the people had just stepped out for a moment and would return soon. On the 3rd day, Bora made a discovery that changed everything. "Leah, you need to see this," she called from what appeared to be a hidden facility beneath the city's main administrative building. The facility was enormous, stretching for kilometers under the city. It was filled with the most advanced technology Leah had ever seen, far beyond anything she knew humans possessed. "This is a remote monitoring station," Bora explained, studying the massive displays that covered the walls. "Look at these screens. They're showing the status of infrastructure systems across the entire galaxy." Leah stared in amazement at hundreds of screens showing power grids, communication networks, transportation systems, and defense installations on thousands of worlds. Many of the displays were now flashing red with warning messages. "The humans were monitoring our entire civilization from here?" Leah asked. "Not just monitoring." Bora pointed to another section of the facility filled with quantum processing units. These computers were automatically adjusting and optimizing systems across the galaxy in real time. "Look at this log file." On the screen appeared a constant stream of actions. Vorthan power grid efficiency increased by 2.3%. Navigation error on Althari transport corrected. Nexari communication relay overheating, temperature reduced. Defense satellite orbit adjusted to prevent collision. Thousands of small adjustments every day for decades, keeping galactic civilization running smoothly. "They were secretly maintaining our entire infrastructure," Leah whispered. "And now they've stopped," Bora added, pointing to the timestamp on the last log entry. It was exactly 6 months ago, the day the humans left the council. Junho examined another section of the facility. "There are similar installations on every human world we've checked. They built a secret network to keep the galaxy functioning and we never knew it existed." "But why?" Leah asked. Why help us in secret instead of openly? Bora found the answer in a personal log entry buried deep in the facility's database. It was recorded by a human engineer named Dr. Park, dated 5 years earlier. Today, the Council rejected our proposal to train their engineers in quantum resonance maintenance, calling it unnecessary human interference. This is the 15th time they've refused our offers to teach them how to maintain their own systems. They want the benefits of advanced technology, but they don't want to learn how it works. We'll continue helping them secretly, but I fear we're making them weaker by solving their problems for them. They tried to teach us, Leah said, understanding dawning on her face. They tried to make us self-sufficient, but we refused to learn. So they kept helping us anyway, Junho added, while preparing for the day they would have to stop. Leah looked around the silent facility, at all the dark screens that had once quietly kept the galaxy safe and prosperous, and that day has come. The return journey to the Council headquarters took 6 days instead of 4. More systems failed while they were traveling. When they finally arrived, Leah found the Council in chaos. 19 more star systems have gone dark, reported the emergency coordinator. The Nexari homeworld is experiencing planet-wide power failures. 3 colony ships are lost in hyperspace because their navigation systems failed. Leah stood before the assembled Council and delivered her report. She told them about the empty human worlds, the hidden monitoring facilities, the secret maintenance network that had kept their civilization functioning. The humans weren't just participants in our society, she concluded. They were the invisible foundation that everything else was built on, and we never realized it because we never bothered to look. Then we must contact them immediately, declared the Council president. They must return and fix these problems. Sir, Leah said quietly, I don't think they're coming back. Why not? Leah thought of the empty cities, the abandoned facilities, the complete silence from human space. Because this time, they want us to learn to stand on our own. The Council chamber fell silent as the implications settled over them. Outside the Great Dome, more stars were going dark as the galaxy's infrastructure continued to collapse without its secret guardians. 1 year after humanity's departure, the galaxy was dying and everyone knew it. Soo-hyun worked 18 hours a day in what used to be called the Council's Department of Galactic Harmony. Now it was simply known as the Crisis Center. Her desk was covered with reports of failing infrastructure, stranded ships, and worlds going dark across the galaxy. As the Council's chief investigator, she had spent months uncovering the true extent of human involvement in galactic civilization. What she had found was terrifying in its scope. Another one, said Minwoo, her assistant, placing a new file on her already overflowing desk. The Corvani mining operation in the Rigel system. Their atmospheric processors have failed. 2 million workers are evacuating to emergency shelters. How long do they have? Soo-hyun asked, not looking up from the star chart she was studying. 3 weeks, maybe 4 if they're lucky. Soo-hyun marked another red X on her chart. The galaxy now looked like it had a disease, with dead systems spreading outward from the core like an infection. Minwoo, bring me the files on natural disasters and cosmic phenomena for the past 200 years. All of them? Every single report. While Minwoo gathered the files, Soo-hyun walked to the large window overlooking the Council's capital city. The lights below flickered constantly now. Transport vehicles moved slowly and often broke down. Even here, at the center of galactic government, the infrastructure was failing. Her communicator chimed with an urgent message from Ji-won, the Council's communications expert. Soo-hyun, you need to see this immediately. Soo-hyun found Ji-won in the archives, surrounded by ancient human communication logs that had been classified for decades. I've been analyzing the final human transmissions before they left, Ji-won explained, her fingers dancing over her computer interface. Most of it was encrypted, but I finally broke the codes. What did you find? Look at this. Ji-won displayed a series of message fragments on her screen. These are conversations between human officials in the weeks before their departure. Soo-hyun read the messages with growing amazement. Project Sanctuary is complete. All colonies are prepared for full isolation. The teaching archives have been distributed. Every species has access to the knowledge, whether they realize it or not. Automated systems will continue basic functions for approximately 18 months. After that, they must learn to maintain things themselves. Are you certain this is necessary? Many will suffer. We've tried for 2 centuries to teach them partnership, They prefer dependence. Sometimes a parent must let a child fall to learn how to walk. The devourers are moving again. Should we warn the council? We've been warning them for 50 years. They called it human paranoia and ignored every alert. If they won't listen to warnings, perhaps they'll listen to consequences. Ji-won scrolled through more messages. There are thousands of these, Soo-hyun. They were planning this withdrawal for decades, trying to prepare the galaxy to survive without them. Show me the messages about the devourers. Ji-won pulled up a different set of files. This is where it gets truly frightening. The messages revealed that the devourers, an ancient nomadic species that consumed the energy of entire star systems, had been actively hunting in galactic space for centuries. Every time they approached inhabited worlds, human ships had quietly intercepted them and driven them away. The galaxy had experienced what they thought were natural cosmic phenomena: solar storms, gravitational anomalies, unexplained equipment failures. In reality, these had all been signs of devourer attacks that humans had stopped before anyone else even realized the threat existed. How many times? Soo-hyun whispered. Based on these records, the humans defeated or diverted devourer attacks 47 times in the past century. The galaxy never knew it was being protected. Soo-hyun sank into a chair, overwhelmed by the revelation. We thought we were lucky to live in such a peaceful time. We thought the galaxy was naturally stable. It was stable because the humans made it stable, Ji-won said grimly. Look at this final message. On the screen appeared a transmission dated exactly 1 year ago. Final warning transmitted to Council regarding Devourer fleet movement in Sector 47. Warning ignored and classified as human interference in natural cosmic events. Recommend immediate evacuation of Vega colonies. Council response: humans should focus on their own territories and stop creating panic. Guardian fleet is withdrawing to human space. May whatever gods they believe in help them all. At that moment, Dongwoo burst into the archives. As the Council's head of historical research, he was usually calm and scholarly. Now he looked terrified. Soo-hyun, we have a problem. A huge problem. What now? I've been analyzing all the natural disasters and cosmic phenomena that the Council successfully handled over the past 2 centuries. Every single one. The solar storms, the asteroid swarms, the gravitational anomalies, the space-time distortions, they were all devourer attacks. Soo-hyun felt cold fear settle in her stomach. And the patterns show that devourer attacks have been getting stronger and more frequent. The humans were barely able to stop the last few. And now the humans are gone. And according to deep space monitoring stations, a massive devourer fleet entered our galaxy 3 days ago. They're heading directly for the core systems. Soo-hyun stood up quickly. How long do we have? Based on their current speed and previous attack patterns, they'll reach the first inhabited systems in 6 weeks. The Council worlds in 3 months. Can we fight them? Dongwoo's expression was grim. I've been studying every previous encounter. Our conventional weapons don't even slow them down. They absorb energy attacks and use them to grow stronger. Physical weapons pass right through them. The only thing that ever worked was some kind of human technology that we don't understand. What kind of technology? I don't know. The humans never shared the details with anyone. They just quietly handled the threats and let us believe we were safe. Soo-hyun walked to the window and stared out at the flickering city lights. Somewhere out there, in the darkness between stars, an unstoppable enemy was approaching. The galaxy's secret protectors were gone. The infrastructure they had quietly maintained was collapsing, and the Council still didn't understand how completely they had depended on the species they had treated as junior partners. Send a message to all Council members, she said finally. Emergency session tomorrow morning. Tell them we need to discuss the true scope of the crisis. Should I tell them about the Devourers? Tell them everything. It's time they understood what the humans were really doing all these years. That night, Soo-hyun sat in her office reviewing files and trying to comprehend the full scale of humanity's contribution to galactic civilization. They hadn't just been participants or even leaders. They had been the galaxy's immune system, quietly preventing disasters, solving crises, and maintaining the delicate balance that kept thousands of species from destroying each other or being destroyed by external threats. And they had done it all, while being dismissed as primitive newcomers, who should be grateful for being allowed to join galactic society. The communicator on her desk chimed softly. An incoming message from the Deep Space Monitoring Network. She opened it with shaking hands. Devourer fleet confirmed. Size unprecedented. Estimated arrival at outer colonies, 41 days. Recommend immediate evacuation of all inhabited systems in their path. Warning: this fleet is large enough to consume the entire galactic core. Soo-hyun closed her eyes and wondered if the humans, wherever they were, could hear the galaxy's cry for help, and if they could hear it, whether they would answer. 2 years after humanity's quiet departure, Hana stood in what remained of the once mighty council chambers. Half the floating chairs were empty now. Many species had fled to their homeworlds when the infrastructure collapse made interstellar travel too dangerous. Others had simply stopped sending representatives when it became clear that the council could no longer govern anything effectively. The great dome above still showed the stars, but now many of those stars were dark. Worlds that had thrived for centuries were now cold and lifeless, consumed by the devourer fleets that swept through the galaxy like a plague. Hana held a small data crystal in her hands. It had appeared on her desk that morning with no explanation of where it came from or how it had bypassed the council's security systems. The only marking on it was a simple message: play when all other options have been exhausted. Counselor Hana, called Seojin from across the nearly empty chamber. He was one of only 12 council members who still came to the daily sessions. The Vorthon home system has gone silent. We must assume the worst, Hana nodded sadly. The Vorthon homeworld had housed 14 billion people just 2 years ago. Now there was only silence where once there had been a thriving civilization. Any word from the evacuation fleets? She asked. Some made it to the Outer Rim territories, Seojin replied, but without proper navigation systems or communication networks, most are just lost out there. Hana looked around the empty chamber. When she had first joined the council 15 years ago, this room had been filled with the representatives of over 2,000 species. They had argued constantly, but they had been united in their belief that they were building something great together. Now she understood that they had built nothing. They had been passengers on a ship they didn't know how to operate, arguing over who got the best seats while someone else quietly kept the engines running. I think it's time, she said, holding up the data crystal. Time for what? To listen to what the humans left for us. She walked to the central platform and inserted the crystal into the communication system. For a moment, nothing happened. Then the chamber filled with the calm, familiar voice of Ambassador Minho. If you are hearing this message, then our departure has accomplished what we hoped it would not. You have finally learned that you cannot survive as passengers in your own civilization. Hana felt tears on her cheeks. Minho's voice sounded tired and sad. Nothing like the confident diplomat she remembered. We spent 200 years trying to teach you to be partners instead of dependents. We shared our knowledge freely, offered training to your engineers, provided detailed explanations for every solution we gave you. You took our solutions and ignored our explanations. You wanted the benefits of advanced civilization without accepting the responsibilities that come with it. The message paused, and when it continued, Minho's voice was firmer. We are not your enemies. We never were. But we could not continue to enable your weakness by solving problems you refused to learn to solve yourselves. Every time we fixed your infrastructure without making you understand how it worked, we made you more dependent and less capable. Every time we stopped a threat without teaching you to recognize such threats yourselves, we made you more vulnerable in the long run. Seojin sat down heavily in his chair. They left to help us? The message continued. We know that many will suffer because of our absence. We know that some species may not survive the transition to independence. This knowledge weighs heavily on us. But we also know that continued dependence would have eventually destroyed you all more completely than anything you face now. The devourers you are fighting have existed for millions of years. They have consumed hundreds of galaxies. We have been fighting them in secret for centuries, growing stronger each time, learning their weaknesses. But we realized that by protecting you from them, we were also protecting them from you. Hana frowned, confused by this statement. The devourers feed on energy and grow stronger from conflict. They expected to find a galaxy of separate weak species fighting each other and easy to consume one by one. Instead, because of our protection, they found something they had never encountered before. A galaxy where thousands of different species had learned to work together, share resources, and support each other across vast distances. You built something beautiful together, even if you didn't realize it. Your trade networks, your cultural exchanges, your shared research projects, These things exist because you created them, not because we gave them to you. We only provided the infrastructure. The connections between your peoples, those were your own achievement. The message paused again, and when Minho's voice returned, it carried a note of hope. The devourers cannot consume cooperation. They cannot feed on shared knowledge or drain the energy from friendship between species. These things are beyond their understanding and outside their power to destroy. You are not helpless. You are not weak. You simply forgot your own strength because someone else was carrying your burdens. The galaxy you built together, the real galaxy of connections and relationships and mutual support, that is something no external threat can destroy unless you let it. The chamber fell silent. As the message ended, Hana and Seojun sat in the quiet for a long time, thinking about everything they had heard. They never abandoned us, Seojun said finally. They were trying to make us stronger. But so many have died, Hana replied. So many worlds have been lost, and so many are still fighting. Look. Seojun activated his data screen and showed her reports from across the galaxy. The Nexari are sharing their crystal technology with the Althari to rebuild communication networks. The Corvani are teaching other species how to repair power systems. The remaining Vorthon fleets are protecting evacuation ships for species they used to compete with. Hana studied the reports with growing amazement. In system after system, species were working together in ways they never had before. Without the humans to solve their problems, they were learning to solve problems for each other. It's working, she whispered. The humans were right. We are learning to stand on our own. Over the following months, Hana watched as the galaxy slowly began to heal itself. It was not the same galaxy it had been. Billions had died, hundreds of worlds were lost, and the scars would last for generations. But something new was growing from the ashes. The devourer fleets found that their ancient tactics no longer worked. When they attacked a system, neighboring species immediately sent help. When they tried to isolate worlds by disrupting communications, new networks appeared overnight, built by cooperative efforts between former strangers. When they consumed the energy of one species' weapons, other species attacked with completely different technologies they had never encountered before. For the first time in their million-year existence, the devourers began to retreat. A year later, Hana stood in a new council chamber built through the combined efforts of dozens of species. Representatives from across the galaxy gathered not to argue over resources and territory, but to coordinate their mutual defense and share their knowledge freely. We have received a transmission, announced the new communications director, a young Corvani named Sung Yol. It came from beyond the galaxy, from coordinates that match human space. The chamber fell silent with anticipation. The message is simple, Sung Yol continued. We are proud of you. When you are ready to build something greater than either of us could achieve alone, you will find us among the stars. Hana smiled for the first time in years. The humans had not abandoned them. They had simply stepped back to let their children learn to walk. The galaxy was wounded, but it was healing. It was smaller, but it was stronger. And someday, when they had proven they could stand as equals rather than dependents, they would find their teachers waiting for them in the darkness between stars. The human departure had seemed like betrayal, but it had been the greatest gift of all, the chance to become worthy of the friendship they had taken for granted. Outside the new council chambers, the lights of the galaxy burned steady and bright, tended now by those who understood their value because they had nearly lost them forever.